The rain hammered against the windshield of Marcus Chen's black Tesla as he pulled into the parking lot of the downtown grocery store. It was nearly midnight, and he'd only stopped because his 5-year-old daughter Emma had been asking for her favorite cereal all week. As the CEO of TechVantage Solutions, Marcus rarely had time for mundane tasks like grocery shopping, but Emma's nanny had called in sick, and he'd promised his little girl he'd pick up her Lucky Charms before bedtime. Marcus adjusted his expensive suit jacket and grabbed his wallet, preparing to make a quick dash through the rain. The parking lot was nearly empty, except for a few cars scattered near the entrance. As he stepped out of his vehicle, he heard something that made him freeze, the sound of a woman crying, followed by desperate pleading. "Please don't take my baby. I'll do anything, please." The voice was coming from behind a dumpster near the side of the building. Marcus hesitated for a moment, his businessman's instincts telling him to mind his own business and get inside before he got soaked. But the desperation in that voice was unlike anything he'd ever heard. It cut through his carefully constructed walls of professional detachment. He walked toward the sound, his designer shoes splashing through puddles. What he saw made his heart sink. A young woman, probably in her early 20s, was huddled under a torn piece of cardboard with a baby bundled in her arms. She was facing two men in uniforms, not police, but what appeared to be social services workers. "Ma'am, we've received reports about an infant living in unsafe conditions," one of the men was saying, his voice stern but not unkind. "We need to ensure the child's welfare." "She's fine. Look at her. She's healthy. She's fed." The woman's voice cracked with emotion. "I keep her warm. I make sure she eats before I do. Please. She's all I have." Marcus stepped closer, and the woman looked up at him with eyes that held a mixture of hope and terror. She was younger than he'd initially thought, maybe 19 or 20, with dark hair plastered to her head from the rain. Despite her circumstances, he could see she'd tried to keep herself and the baby as clean as possible. The infant in her arms was indeed well cared for, wrapped in what appeared to be a clean blanket. "Excuse me," Marcus said, his voice carrying the authority he was accustomed to wielding in boardrooms. "What's happening here?" The social worker turned to him with mild annoyance. "Sir, this is official business. We're here to ensure this child's safety." Marcus looked at the woman again. "What's your name?" "Sarah," she whispered, clutching her baby closer. "Sarah Mitchell. And this is Lily." "How old is Lily?" 3 months. Sarah's voice was barely audible over the rain. Marcus felt something stir inside him, a feeling he hadn't experienced since his wife had died 3 years ago, the overwhelming need to protect someone vulnerable. Emma had been just 2 when cancer took Rebecca, and he remembered the fierce, primal instinct to shield his daughter from any harm. "Officers," Marcus said, reaching into his jacket for his business card. "I'm Marcus Chen, CEO of TechVantage Solutions. What would it take to ensure this child can stay with her mother tonight?" The social worker looked at the card, clearly recognizing the company name. TechVantage was one of the city's largest employers. "Sir, we appreciate your concern, but there are protocols. This woman is homeless, living in unsafe conditions with an infant." "What if those conditions changed?" Marcus asked. "What if she had safe housing, access to health care, proper nutrition?" Sarah looked up at him with confusion and dawning hope. I don't understand. Who are you?" Marcus knelt down beside her, not caring that the wet pavement was ruining his $1,000 suit. "I'm someone who believes every child deserves to stay with their mother when possible, and every mother deserves a chance to provide for their child." He turned back to the social workers. "Give me your card. I'll personally ensure this woman and her child have proper housing and support. You can do a follow-up visit in a week to verify the living conditions." The social workers exchanged glances. This wasn't a typical situation they encountered. After a brief discussion, they agreed to delay any action for 1 week, provided Marcus would take personal responsibility for ensuring the child's welfare. As the social workers left, Sarah stared at Marcus in disbelief. "Why would you do this? You don't even know me." Marcus looked down at baby Lily, who had fallen asleep despite the commotion. Because 3 years ago, I almost lost the most important thing in my world. I know what it